This is the Voices of Valor, where we bring you the voices of those who serve beyond the call of duty. From the battlefields to the policy tables, from the grassroots to change makers and national visionaries. These stories are the heartbeat of our nation. I am Harshveer Singh, and I invite you to listen, learn, and be inspired because the story of India is written by its brave. Let's begin. Okay. Today we have with us Sri Nagendra Kumar Saxena, a retired Indian diplomat who served as the High Commissioner of India to Papua New Guinea. A 1982 batch officer of the Indian Foreign Service, he was appointed to this position in 2015, following his tenure as the Joint Secretary and the Deputy Director General of Indian Council of World Affairs. He also had a position as the Joint Secretary in the Ministry of External Affairs. During his diplomatic career, he played a pivotal role in strengthening India's ties with Papua New Guinea. He was responsible for the first ever Indian president's visit to Papua New Guinea in 2016 when Shri Pranab Mukherjee was the President of India. Sir, we welcome you in this podcast and we are honored to have you here, sir.
My pleasure indeed.
So, beginning with the first question of the podcast, sir, I would like to ask you, could you please tell us about your early life and what inspired you to join the Indian Foreign Service?
I come from a small town called Agra, and there have been very few and far between the students who have aspired to join foreign service. As I was growing up, one sentence that stuck in my mind that inspired me to join foreign service was, why not the best? And as I prepared for the civil service, the choices were obvious. Either I joined Indian administrative service or Indian Foreign Service. And for my generation of youngsters, it was certainly more prestigious to join Foreign Service. The trend has reversed today. So the very idea to join the creme de la creme of Indian bureaucracy, that was the purpose behind pursuing civil service exams and joining Foreign Service.
Wonderful, sir. So now, moving on to the second question of the podcast, I would like to ask you, how did your initial postings shape your approach to diplomacy and international relations?
Each country presents a diplomat with its own sets of problems. You can't evolve a paradigm which will fit every scenario and every culture, every society, and every country. My first posting was in Hong Kong to learn Chinese as a language, where I hardly ever undertook any diplomatic work. The next was Tanzania, which was going through a severe economic crisis. They didn't have any foreign exchange. They didn't have any money to import stuff. If you ever visited a pharmacy in Dar es Salaam, the largest capital city, all you could have got was paracetamols and nothing else. We had to import even the milk food for our child from Kenya. The conditions were very different. We used to stock up on milk for 7 or 8 days. For 15 or 20 days, we would be without any bread. There was to be a national milling corporation which would bake bread once in a month. So we would ask everyone in the High Commission or embassy who all wanted how many breads, and we'd rush there, stand in the queue as officers to procure a certain number of breads. There was a very large Indian community there who we interacted with and who presented their own set of problems for us. There wasn't much tourism to Tanzania from India, nor from Tanzania to India. But on the African continent itself, Tanzania has been our staunchest friend forever. It was from the time of Nehru that we built our diplomatic relations with Tanzania, and they have prospered since then. Now we take a country like Cambodia. When I reached there, it was after the UN supervised elections, and a government had formed with an unprecedented event. There were two prime ministers, first prime minister and second prime minister, belonging to two different parties. and who could never see eye to eye with. And as a diplomat, you have to keep both the prime ministers happy and carry out the development agenda that has been given by our government to help the people of Cambodia. That was another set of problem there, that Cambodia had the largest number of amputees in the world, and we had to fit them with the artificial limbs. A number of Western NGOs were working who had been using large amount of money, and in period of 5 years had at the most attended to 50 to 80 amputees. I organized a camp with the Jaipur for Technology, and in three weeks we attached limbs to around 500 people, because we made it a point that we would not sit in the capital city, but rather go to the interiors where actually the problem was. Then you have a problem like UAE, with a large flourishing business community, a huge Indian diaspora who have expectations from India. There are schools which are run by Indian communities, which the largest school has more than 15,000 students. You have to supervise the education, you have to go to the government to get the textbooks clear for every year's curriculum, because they used to have census that there's nothing against the Prophet or Islam or something like that. And then, sitting in Dubai, I was in charge of 6 emirates. So virtually every day I was traveling from Dubai to Sharjah to Al Quwain to Ras Al Khaimah to Khorfakan and back. That's hell of a driving distance. The working hours are different, the customs are different, the language is different, and that is peculiar to every posting that you do. In Tanzania, you have Swahili. In Papua New Guinea, you have a pidgin. They don't have a script. In both these countries, they didn't have the script. So they write the language in English characters, in Roman characters. And the funniest part is that the third country that I came across is Malaysia. They never had a script of their own. And in Malaysia, you have to realize there are 2 sets of spellings there. One is the local language, which is written in English, and the English. And it can be hilarious at times. One day I was passing by in the car, so what is this word? Bisikl, Kal. It is bicycle. That's the local language and the local spelling. So when you speak or converse with people, the intonations are different. The sense of humor is different. Culturally, the writing is very different. I'll give you an example. First thing I learned, and I was told when I went to Tanzania, when a person from Africa laughs, he is not appreciating a joke, he is embarrassed. So never embarrass a person. So these are the various things you learn as you go in your career from place to place.
Thank you for sharing your beautiful experiences, sir. So now, moving on to the third question. You served as the High Commissioner of India to Papua New Guinea. What were some key highlights and the challenges of your tenure, sir?
As the High Commissioner was something unique. People in India largely, or people world over, largely don't know much about Papua New Guinea. They know of Fiji because of tourism. But Papua New Guinea is the largest Pacific island country in the world. It is 10 times the size of Fiji, with 10 times the population and 10 times the economy. But it's the least developed country. When I reached there, the very first fortnight, I had the pleasure to be invited for a lunch in Parliament by a sitting Papua New Guinean member of Parliament and minister. As I was sharing my lunch with him, and in walked the Prime Minister, and he came and joined us. And for the life of me, till today, I haven't figured out whether it was pre-planned that the Prime Minister will join us for lunch, or it just happened as a coincidence. And they started talking about the dearth of HIV medicines because the World Bank and IMF had blocked the funding. It has among the highest incidence of HIV in the world. And there are only 3 months quotas left for medicines. And they didn't have the money to buy it. And as an ambassador, I put my neck out right at that moment without clarifying or seeking any approval from ministry or government in Delhi. And I told him, Your Excellency, Mr. Prime Minister, I take responsibility for providing HIV medicines for next 3 years. And I'm eternally grateful to the Ministry of External Affairs in New Delhi, who did not let me lose my face. They did not even caution me with whose authority you promised so much medicine because it's going to cost a lot of money. And the funniest aspect was when the medicines arrived, they did not have the air-conditioned space or chilled space to store them. They would have expired or gone bad. And then I had to store it within the High Commission for 3 years. And I'll give out the tranche for every 3 months so that the medicines are properly distributed. And the highlight of my stay in Papua New Guinea was, of course, the visit of Pranab Mukherjee, the President of India. No Indian dignitary had ever visited Papua New Guinea. And my greatest regret was that I had been given a mandate before I left from here that we should host, that Papua New Guinea should host our Prime Minister there also. And I kept on getting a set of dates from the Papua New Guinea government. They'll extend the invitation for Mr. Modi to come, but Mr. Modi could not make it because he never had the time. We provided books to them. I tried to convert the system of education to Indian system of education in the sense their system is totally dependent on Australian curriculum. And the Australian textbooks are very, very costly. They can't afford. Most of the students can't afford. So what happens is, when I visited a few of the schools, they would have one textbook for 30 students. How do you study? So I tried to tell them, okay, I can provide you the textbooks for each student if you switch your board to Higher Secondary Board of India. I gave it my best shot. Even the Prime Minister agreed, the Minister of Education agreed, but the sway that Australia has and the financial capability that Australia has, I could not make any headway.
Wow, sir. Beautifully explained. So now, moving on to the next question, I would like to ask you, sir, what unique aspects of Papua New Guinea's culture or society stood out to you during your visit?
Papua New Guinea is a very unique experience. It is pristine, beautiful, lush green, uh, but not at all developed. There's no infrastructure. If you have to fly from one city to another, if you have to travel from one city to another, you have to fly. There are no roads. The roads in every city end from the airport to the city center, and that's it. Don't go beyond that. As a culture is highly tribal, there are two sets of land in Papua New Guinea, a land which is owned by the government, which is minuscule, and anything else is owned by the local tribe. So if you think that you can probably break a branch or a twig, you cannot. It belongs to the tribe. They can ask you to pay even $100 for a twig if they want it. Okay. The second aspect, if you've studied Indian history, when the Aryans came to India, the the modem of wealth was the head of cattle, the cows. In Tanzania, even today, is the head of pigs that you have, which determines your riches and how affluent you are. And you'll come across a person who's 70-year-old but rich because he has got a lot of pigs. He has 10 wives or 7 wives or 5 wives. And a 35-year-old who doesn't have a single wife because the dowry is given in terms of head of pigs to the bride's family. So if you don't have pigs, you can't get married. So there are features. It's beautiful country. You might have heard of a bird like that called bird of paradise. That bird on the painting, the thing there. It's the most colorful bird, and there are different types. You go bird watching. It is perhaps the best place for the world scuba diving. All the first 3 spots for scuba diving in the world will be in Papua New Guinea. Australia would come distant fourth. The world's most arduous and hazardous trekking trail is in Papua New Guinea. It's called Kakonda Trail. So the people from world over come there just either for scuba diving or to go on that trek on that trail. It's a very poor country. Education is very meager, but people are very polite. People are very, very warm. They'll come out of their way to help you. It's a country you have to realize that the world order today is based on exploitation. It's not based on equality. There are over 760 islands, Papua New Guinea, which means that territorial water extends a very long way into Pacific, which are very rich in fish. But they don't have the means to do any deep sea fishing. So the Japanese, the Chinese, the Americans fish on those waters and give them pittance in return.
Okay, sir. So now I would like to know, sir, how has diplomacy evolved since the time you joined the IFS in 1982?
Diplomacy is a tool to achieve and serve what your nation requires. It has evolved from the times of, let's say, Napoleon, to Talleyrand, to Metternich, to Bismarck, okay, to the present concept of post-Second World War. Diplomacy today has changed because there's a tremendous use and abuse of technology today. The classical example of an ambassador till 1950s used to be an ambassador is a person who lies for his country abroad. Today you cannot lie. You will be fact checked within 10 seconds. So you first of all have to be on top of your brief. If you're going for an interview, you just can't say, oh, I'll fib my way through. I'll glorify how great India is. But India has got its own problems. And they all know it today. And then there are misconceptions about India. And that is the way the diplomacy has changed a lot. today's projection of a soft power, and soft power includes our education, our development of sciences, technologies, and above all, culture. How we impact all these things. I'll give you an instance. I was in UK and I was invited to an event by Labour Party. It was an event centering around condition of women in India. And there were a lot of white ladies who had been working in India with different NGOs. And you came up and kept on saying, talked about exploitation of women, illiteracy, not enough empowerment for women, child marriages, and the other. At the end of around 2 hours session, I was asked to give my comments because I was the only person who was representing India. And my first sentence was the very first sentence was, I agree with whatever has been said. I can't deny it. But there are two ways of looking at child marriages. UK has the highest number of teen pregnancies in the world. The single mother syndrome is the highest national percentage in UK. Okay, and the girl mother herself doesn't know who the father is. In UK, as soon as the teen girl gets pregnant, she's turned out of her home. Where does she go? She has nowhere to go. She will be exploited on the street. Meaning in India, if a teen-aged girl is married, if there is a child marriage, there is a whole support system behind her own family and the bridegroom's family. When you're talking about education, when India produces every year far more number of women graduates and postgraduates than entire Europe put together. And I've been in UK for that time it was 2 years only. Third year was about to start. I said, the maximum ladies I see in UK are working secretarial jobs or receptionist jobs. And how many women ministers do you have? How many women secretaries to the government or British government do you have? When I go to India, every ministry will have at least 10 to 15 lady joint secretaries. We will add administrative cutting edge in districts. There will be lady DMs. America, please don't just comment on India. America, these are the lacunas, these are the shortcomings. I agree. But our problems are also very different. You claim to be a developed country, we are a developing country. The other one was when India had conducted the second set of tests, nuclear tests in Pokhran. We call Pokhran 2. We were going around all the UK trying to convey the message that we have not done something which is unique. And there were two ways of explaining it. Oh, there was a bogey. Oh, now Pakistan is a nuclear weapon power, India is a nuclear weapon power. There can be a nuclear conflagration over Jammu and Kashmir anytime. And our message was very, very clear. Are you saying this because we are Browns? USA has nuclear powers since before 1945. Russia has it. UK has it. France has it. China has it. Have they been used? And the only nuclear weapon has been used by a white nation, not by a brown nation. So you have to be very forthright today, but in polite terms. I went to an event that was organized by Rotary Club of UK. And it was actually an event where most of the attendees, invitees, were over 60 to 70 years of age, the white, who contribute nearly $4 or $5, $10 a month for some NGOs in India to feed a hungry mouth there or hungry mouth there. And they said, oh, we give so much money, we will not give money to you, and we'll tell British government to stop aid to India. I listened to them for nearly 15-20 minutes. And then I said, okay, put a stop to what you're saying. First of all, thank you for giving £4 a month when you won't even buy a meal for yourself in UK. One meal. So don't feel very great about it. Second thing, oh, you have been using money to develop your nuclear program. I said, none of your single pence or shilling goes for our nuclear program or our government policies. Even the British aid program, the money goes to NGOs directly, not to government of India. So we can't use your money for our nuclear program. It is your basic sense of, again, white superiority speaking, that how could a brown nation develop a nuclear weapon without your help and assistance. Please understand that what you do is computing in today starts with 1 and ends with 0. Now, the numerals 1 to 9 were developed by the Arabs, and 0 was given to the world by India. And if you don't have 0, you can't do anything. You don't have a concept of infinity and eternity. So these are things you have to tell them. But you have to realize that don't make claims you can't sustain. That's what diplomacy has changed. And the media today will pick up even one single sentence you speak out of context and blow it apart. You see it on TV every day on the news channels. One sentence, oh, so much, so and so has sent this thing. It'll be going in a loop for 40-45 minutes of the program. What went before that and what came after that phrase or sentence, no one is bothered about. And that happens abroad a lot. You have to realize you represent a very great country. Today, I've got into the habit, when I go walking, I still can't put on shorts. Because that was first, in those days, it was not considered good form for an Indian diplomat to go to gym, even gym in shorts. You'll go in tracksuits only. The European and the American diplomats will come in shorts, the Aussies will come in shorts. We would not. You go to the American or the Australian embassy or High Commission, they'll be dressed in jeans. Indian diplomat will not be. So where do you come from and what image you want to portray? Now our message is very clear. Every Indian diplomat sort of organizes 3 to 4 dinners or 5 dinners every month for journalists, for think tanks, for bureaucracy. Okay. First instruction we get from our ministry is, please don't entertain in restaurants. We would like them to come to your home, see what Indian culture is, how we treat our guests, what food we eat, how Indian food at home is different from Indian food in restaurants. And that entails a lot of work by the wives, spouses of the Indian diplomats. So Indian diplomacy is still family oriented. Our entire family works towards that aim. My wife is cooking for guests. My wife is cooking for events like, let's say, 15th August, 26th January. She's helping us decorate the High Commission. My children are also doing that. The Western culture doesn't involve the family at all. Most of the time, if you meet an American embassy people, ask them, sir, Oh, what about your family? Oh, they're back in States. They hardly ever travel with the family. It's all over the developed countries. So our diplomacy is very different from, let's say, the Western diplomacy. Our demands of diplomacy are different from their demands. They realize they have a financial and political power and wherewithal to prevail. We have to win the hearts and minds by argument. So the basic tenet of Indian diplomacy has not changed. Only the circumference of within which we operate has become slightly more evolved in terms of technology, in terms of media, in terms of fact checking.
Very well explained, sir. So now moving on to the next question, I would like to ask you, how important is the Indian diaspora in enhancing bilateral relations across the globe?
Like it's oft repeated axiom that the Indian diaspora abroad are the real ambassadors of India. And I fully agree with that. In an average Indian High Commission or embassy, you'll have 10 to 12 officers and staff. While we try to do our best to project an image of India, the real image of India is projected by the diaspora because they are in millions. They interact with millions of the local people every day. We can't do that, even in an entire tenure. Indian diaspora serves India not only in terms of sending back the money, repatriated monies that they send us, which in billions of dollars every year, but in terms of building people to people bridges. Let's say you talk about Indian food abroad. That Indian food abroad did not become popular through the diplomats. It's the Indian diaspora who took their food with them, started their own restaurants, called over the white people to their homes, and the Indian food became popular. You go to UK, you go to Russia, you go to US, you go to Hollywood movies, you will find Indian scores, background music score, A.R. Rahman's. How did that happen? It's Indian diaspora. If Pandit Ravi Shankar is known as the greatest ambassador of Indian classical music to the West, it was because he was invited by the Indian diaspora initially, till the West came to appreciate what Indian classical music is. They are a huge power, a political weapon, an instrument which can be used for conveying what India needs. I'll give you an example. We were posted in London. Uh, the Labour government was in power. So we had a group of conservative MPs in British Parliament who were called Friends of India. Okay. But in the Labour Party, there was nothing called Friends of India. They were largely very sympathetic towards Pakistan. Okay. We had a High Commissioner with a vision and energy. He said, we've got such a large number of Indian expatriates here. Why don't we use them? He actually spent 3 years building up the Indian groups, uniting them together in different constituencies. Now, there's something called marginal constituencies in UK. The UK constituencies are very, very small parliamentary constituencies, 50,000, 80,000, 90,000 max. Okay. Now, if you got 10,000 Indians in a constituency, he can actually determine the victory. So we, first of all, sat down, did research, how many marginal constituencies are there in Britain. We came across around 185. Now, in a house of 185 are marginal constituencies where Indian people can actually determine the outcome of an election. So you better listen to us. And we'll give the message to you, what message you have to convey to your MP. And that worked like a charm. Because after that Pokhran experiment, every capital had brought down the shutters, that we will not entertain Indian delegations, will not entertain Indian ministers, and within 6 months we formed Friends of Labour, Friends of India and Labour Party. Now I'll give you another example, which I think is a lost opportunity. It's in Canada. We always say that the Khalistani elements are creating problems for India and Canada. They're overtaking the Gurdwaras, things like that. But have we ever realized that around 180,000 people of Indian origin in Canada, only 73,000 are Sikhs? Which means we have failed to organize the other Indian groups to oppose that Khalistani influence. If we could do that, if we were to vote en bloc for the MP that would support Indian cause, that would be a huge help to India to build the vitiated India-Canada relations. So diaspora always has a huge role to play. I'll be there in a place for maximum 3 years. Okay, I might try to do something. My predecessor may have done something different. My successor would do something different. But the institutions that I build up will be carried forward only by the diaspora. So diaspora is the most effective tool we have. If today India has developed and therefore our relations have improved with the Gulf countries, from Saudi Arabia to UAE, yes, because we are now a better economy, much larger trading partner, much larger developing partner than Pakistan to those countries, yes. But we have such a larger diaspora in those countries of Indians than the Pakistanis. And they're doing far better economically and financially than the Pakistanis. That counts. So the real ambassadors of India are not the diplomats. We are the migratory birds. We come for three years, bye bye, goodbye. They are the persons who really uphold the prestige and flag of India. And they're the best example of, let's say, Satya Nadella or Google or Microsoft, the Indians there. They reflect the value system of Indian education. They're not the product of Western education. You go to UK, you go to USA, the number of Indian doctors who were trained in India. So they carry a flag, a sort of bar of Indian medical education. The STEM sciences, science, technology, mathematics, electronics, the Indians. NASA has such a large number of Indian engineers. No Indian diplomat can achieve what they have achieved. We can go to a TV channel, give an interview which lasts at the most 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it will be edited to the whims and fancies of the editor. And it's going live. But what they are contributing to our cause, no one can equal. So this is a grand idea. Oh, Indian ambassador has done this. So Indian ambassador in most of the big countries will not succeed without the support of the Indian diaspora.
Thank you, sir. So now, what qualities do you believe are essential for young diplomats today?
Let me put it this way, the life of a younger diplomat is far more difficult than ours. And not only because of the spread of social media, the technology, etc. You're constantly under a microscope. The greatest pressure today is the sense of not being rooted. You've got a family, you've got the growing up children. Every 3 years, their schools are changing. The system of education is changing. The language of the friends is changing. It's getting more and more difficult. People in every country, you can take it as a negative point or a positive point, are getting more jingoistic. They don't like foreigners. You have to understand that. This feeling is growing world, whether it's France or Germany or USA or UK. It is growing. So, but when you go out in the public, no one knows you're a diplomat. They just see a brown face. They'll be target of abuse, unintended. Someone is just frustrated, he'll take it out on you. You're not carrying a label, I'm an Indian diplomat. Okay. So, the life is much harder. Life is much faster. Gone, are the, gone is the concept of working 9 to 5. Sorry. Well, that concept never applied to an Indian diplomat. We are constantly working. If I'm working in a mission, which that's a term for embassy or a high commission. If I get a 12 o'clock call or 1 o'clock morning call, ki I'm Indian, sir, I'm in difficulty. You better be there. You can't say, sorry, it's 1 a.m. Sir, I've just received a telegram or a phone call. My father's passed away. My passport is expired. I booked my ticket. My flight is at 8 in the morning. What can you tell him? And it's not only me who has to work on the passport. There's an entire system of 4 or 5 people. Okay. You get a call. Oh, sir, just heard that there is an Indian maid working in that house. I'm hearing a scream at 3 in the morning. What do? Wait for 9 o'clock. You just can't do it. It's a very high pressure job. And you will come across people, those people who employ this Indian labor, actually very moneyed and influential people. You come up face to face against them and they own the system. I'll give you an example. I was in UAE. This system has slightly changed now. The sheikhs have something called camel racing. Okay. In those days, they used to take children from 3 to 7 years from India with the fathers, saying that we'll give you employment. And they'll separate the children from the father. The children during the camel races would be tied to the back of the camel because when a child cries, that noise makes the camel run faster. And then these duped parents will come to the consulate or embassy, sir, please get our children back. And now these owners of camels are the sheikhs, the rulers. I've been personally threatened, sir, you will not be able to go back to your consulate. You sit in a country which believes in Sharia, okay, and you try to get a Hindu boy or a Hindu girl married to a Pakistani or Muslim boy or girl without conversion to religion. Oh God, hell breaks loose. You get threats from Maulvis, Maulanas, You get into a taxi, the taxi driver is a Muslim Pakistani or Arab or Egyptian, he'll threaten you. I've undergone all that. I'm not giving you specific examples because there's so many of them. I I can tell you this is there used to be a magazine called Sunday. This is in up till 1990s or 2000. There was actually an article on me in 1999 issue, some month, where actually this somehow they got rid of this thinking. I got 6 children from these sheikhs back from the camel riding clutches. There was a huge article on me. And I was such a fool that I never tore and kept the article with me. So things happen. And at that point of time, you're not doing it out of a sense of pity. You do it out of 2 things. One, a sense of duty. The second, a sense of humanity. And if you lack sense of humanity, if you lack that, you can never be a successful representative of India dealing with Indian people. You have to give credence to the fact that he is a fellow Indian who's suffering. And you have to do the best that you can for him. Every week, I'll tell you, this is a known means it's an open fact, but people not in North India don't know it. Uh, at least 60 to 80 illegal immigrants come back from UAE. Okay, now they are picked up by the police, local police from different emirates like Dubai, Sharjah, Abu Dhabi, wherever they are, and they're put in jail. Okay, they are made to serve 2 to 3 years of sentence. And then they'll inform you, ki, okay, sir, come and visit them, establish their credentials, whether they're Indian or not. Now you go there. These chaps don't have the passports because passports have been taken away by the agents who have fooled them, or they never had a passport. They were taken on dhows, illegal vessels from Kerala coast to Dubai. Now, you can't give them a passport and send them to India because you don't know whether they are really Indians or not. How do you differentiate between a Pakistani or a Bangladeshi from an Indian? Same looks, same language. Now you gather all the details. Okay, come back, send all the details to the concerned villages, districts, thanas. Get the details back whether the parents are there. Ask them whether this is their son or not. Then issue them traveling papers, not the passport. Then bring them. And now things might have changed. I'm out of the Gulf for a very, very long time. I left UAE in which year? 1992. Okay. That time, most of the times we had to ask the Indian community, please, we need 15 tickets. We need 20 tickets from Dubai to Mumbai, or Cochin or Trivandrum, and they would oblige. We didn't even have the government funds to do that. It was same in Malaysia. I so many times had to ring up the Jet Airways general manager in Kuala Lumpur. Yeah, I've got 5 people to send back. Can you give me 5 complimentary tickets? I said, sir, okay. So this flight is full, but tomorrow I've got 2 seats. I can 3 seats next day or something like that. So you have to have a sense of purpose and mission. You are here. Okay, building relations with the local government is the most important part, but this is as equally important a part. No one will teach you this aspect, not even the ministry. This is something you learn on the job when you land up the, oh my God, we got such a huge Indian diaspora, and let's say so many thousands are illegals, and we have to send them back. And they're not only men, they are women who are being exploited, who are being abused. And this is not generic just to India, generic to the entire our region, because we are a developed countries. People have the same amount of poverty and the same requirement, therefore they get lured into these jobs. It's not typical to India. Bangladeshis, Sri Lankans, Myanmaris, Filipinos, this is very endemic. Nepalis. And what happens? In certain places, you don't have the embassy, High Commission of Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal. What do? Indian High Commission. They come to you. And what do you do? You don't turn them away. You still cater to the needs and requirements and try to service them. It's a very diverse job. It's not 9 to 5 job at all. So first of all, you should have the emotional resilience, because you'll come across such horrific stories. You'll say, how can a human being do this to another human being? So you've got to emotional and mental resilience. You have to be very, very sympathetic to the cause and still not get emotionally affected, or else you lose it.
Okay, sir. So, coming to the conclusion of this podcast, I would like to ask you this last question, sir. What message would you like to give to students aspiring to join the civil services or the IFS?
First of all, you have to have an all-round personality. You can't just be a nerd. Okay. You have to be vocal. You have to be highly communicative. Okay. At times, you have to also learn to be a devil's advocate. Okay. You should have a very cool, analytical, at times cynical mind. Because when you rub your shoulders internationally, you rub them with best of the minds. Okay. You have to have the capacity to understand the people and the culture. In India, we say like this, kya kar rahe ho? Try doing it in Africa or Malaysia, the chop off your hand. When you go to a mission, you get a huge list of do's and don'ts. What is culturally inappropriate? You have to mug that up. Okay. So, and you should be very, very clear in expressing what you want to say. No one has got time to listen to your blabber, your message. But when we argue among ourselves, two ordinary people argue, we keep on repeating the same argument again and again and again and again. Okay, we're trying to convince him you are wrong, I'm right. Doesn't happen in diplomacy. You say what you have to say, listen out what he has to say. Okay, you have conveyed your message. It has already been written down what you have said, and I've written down what he has said. If you repeat yourself again, you've lost the impact. No one is going to give you half an hour of meeting today. No way. 15 minutes, 20 minutes. You might have a huge brief of 17 pages, but you've got to cull that down to nearly 15 minutes. That's all. So, you know what is precis writing? Okay, precis writing is you given, let's say, 2 pages of something written, and you have to reduce it to exactly 1/3 without losing out any substance. So that's how you actually communicate as a diplomat. Whatever essential has to be said, has to be said. Don't go for glory phrases. Never heard of all that. What is the point you want to tell? It's like precision strike during Operation Sindoor. Tuck. There. There it is. Now you can't force them to agree to your point of view. You can only make your point of view. And the more effectively you make it, the more chances are that they'll listen to you. And the second time, if suppose I sit down and talk to you for half an hour with going round in circles, next time I ask for an appointment, yeah, this guy wastes my time. Sorry. Tell him I'm out of town. So first of all, be very precise what you say, what you write. It's not a board exam how many answer sheets I've filled in. When you send a report about the most important thing to Delhi, what has happened in your country of accreditation, simple things cannot by any stretch of imagination, however important, exceed more than 3 pages. So it's not only what you're telling there, but what you're telling Delhi. No one, if I was to send a report more than 3 pages, it will be just kept aside. Sorry, don't have time to read it. Because the joint secretary or the desk officer is dealing with 20 countries. He cannot read it. And otherwise, you might have said the most important thing, but it's lost. And we have something called telegrams. It's called cipher telegrams. Okay. And if you cross more than one page, you've lost it. First of all, the telegram goes to everyone in the government. I might write it to my joint secretary, but it goes to every secretary in the government of India. It goes to Prime Minister's office. You will lose your credibility. This guy doesn't know how to write. Send a message. No one takes you seriously. The thing is, sometimes we want to, oh, my English is so good. Keep on adding to it. And no one is looking at your English. The most effective telegram that I have read is of a person who is no longer there. He died as governor of Assam. He was Foreign Service Officer, Mr. S.K. Singh. And the second person is still alive, C. Dasgupta. I'll give you 5 days over a telegram. Please delete one word from it. You cannot do it. That's the beauty of writing. And then when a telegram lands on your desk from someone like C. Dasgupta or S.K. Singh, you better read it and read every word of it. So the messages, be very clear and precise, both in your written and oral communication. Never try to fib, don't try to lie. That's it. And be humane. Nothing else. And to be a diplomat, read as much as you can. Because there's no substitute to knowledge at all. And what will happen in your written exams and interviews, what questions will come from what angle, you can never predict. So only thing that will save you that time is your knowledge. Be a voracious reader. Don't say, oh, I'm a literature student, so I won't touch economics. No. In every age of literature, it is influenced by the economics and politics of the time. You cannot separate it. Can you separate history from economics or politics? You cannot. Have you studied French Revolution? Who were the 3 instigators of French Revolution? The philosophers. Voltaire. Yes. Diderot. Okay. They were literary figures. What they had to do with French Revolution? So that's what I'm saying. The only thing that will help you, not only during the exam, but everywhere, is the knowledge. These are the most essential ingredients of getting into any branch of civil service.
Sir, we uh, extend our heartfelt gratitude to you and thank you for joining us on this podcast and taking out the time to be with us today and answering every question with insightful earnest and depth. We thank you sincerely for your time and wisdom, sir.
Thank you. It was a pleasure, and especially a pleasure to brush up my speaking skills, which I've not used for last 8 years. Thank you very much.